This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we offer a community special highlighting RiverBend's stroke survivor and caregiver support group. More specifically, this is one of their Zoom social meetings that's facilitated by Diane Bishop. Today, we hear reflections on their progress towards acceptance, patience, and connection, while honoring both grief and hope. They talk about priority shifts, new hobbies, and camaraderie amongst fellow stroke survivors. Thank you for joining us for our Beyond Stillness community special, highlighting reflections from RiverBend's stroke survivor and caregiver support group.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. Earlier this year, Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke had an opportunity to facilitate a reflection session with RiverBend's stroke survivor and caregiver support group. Now, we will hear reflections from individuals within that group in order to inspire and support other stroke survivors on their recovery journeys. We begin with a meditation. When I was preparing to spend this time with you, I was thinking about recovery as a mountain that we climb. And mountains have very different elements to them. They have jagged edges, those parts that are hard to climb up and over. And sometimes there are valleys that have beautiful wildflowers. And each of our journeys are very different. And every day of the journey is very different. So today, on our climb, on our journey, let's take a moment to stop. We might be at a point on the mountain that seems difficult and jagged. Maybe our heart is pounding and our body feels tired, and that's okay. This is a good moment to thank our bodies for all the work that they've done. Or maybe we've been frolicking through a valley, a little brief break in the climb, and we've been able to see these wildflowers and the stream going by. And when we stop today, maybe we're able to see the elements of color and beauty, and we give thanks. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to share briefly a little wisdom today, something that you see in your recovery today as you look back on your journey through recovery. What are your thoughts? What would you like to share with other stroke survivors today?
This is Diane. I would like to share the obvious one that we all are aware of, but it took me a long time to accept, and that was to be patient with myself. That's it's just so important. You can get frustrated and you can try to do too much, but it's not going to change where and who you are. And it can actually make it worse. So having patience with yourself and understanding that things will take longer and your accomplishments will take longer, and it's okay. It's just our new life, and we just have to accept it, and that's okay too.
I'd like to piggyback on that, Diane. So for me, I would agree being patient, which I was not. For me, it'll be 5 years, I think in April, since I had my stroke. And I was a really active go-getter. And it was very, very, very difficult for me to come to a point of acceptance of my quote unquote new life. It was devastating. And I spent a lot of time crying and crying and crying, and probably 4 years of, struggling with depression and crying. And I would agree that one of the things on that now the other side of that is that I was forced to be patient, whether or not I chose to accept that. I was forced into that. But for me, it was also important to, I needed to reach out and get in contact with a therapist and not feel bad about that I needed help. And I'm a person who, if I can do it by myself, no matter what it is, I don't need help from anybody, And so to reach out, and that's really helped me go through stages of grieving for my former life, helped me to feel worthwhile about myself, positive about myself, build up my self-esteem, which had plummeted. And then the period of time when I've had to be more quiet has given me the gift of, and I've only recently in the past 6 months discovered this, of now exploring other things that I always pushed to the side when I was busy and on the go, And so one of those things was writing poetry. And so in the past 6 months, I've started writing poetry. I write haiku poetry and started, then reaching out and finding groups. And so reaching out and finding a new group of people with which to identify with. And something that I'd always put on the back burner, I'm now able to bring to the forefront and enjoy. So it's been a long road, but I can say today that I'm actually happy. I'm happy with where I am, which I could not have said even a year ago, probably.
Well, my story was started about 10 years ago. And just like the other people, learning to accept the new reality took a little while. But the thing that I do is make goals, both big ones and small ones. The small ones are the ones that I know I can make with some effort. And the big ones I may not be able to make, but I put them out there to make me reach. And so, and tell other people about your goals so that they can hold you accountable. If you just tell them yourself and don't share them with other people, there's no accountability. And this group is a great one to help keep me in cutting with my goals. I've heard it say a few times from people that had strokes, it's both the best thing and the worst thing that's ever happened. you do find a lot about yourself that you may have known, but yeah, tucked away. But it's also made me strong in trying to make my goals. And the people around me that have helped me, you find out. I think one person said it's hard to ask for help, and I find out that you have to ask for help, and um, it's a blessing for both people because your friends are going to want to help you anyway. And if you don't ask them, you're taking that away from them as well as you. So ask your friends, your coworkers, your family. They help you if you need help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you know what your limits are. But don't let them put limits on you. The only person that can limit you is yourself and maybe your doctor, but um, they're all trying to make you better and more accountable. And so set those goals. I do mine by the year, not sometimes I make them shorter than that, but my goal, one of mine this year, is to be able to walk a whole mile. And with the bad weather, I'm going to the mall and walking with a friend. I'm more than halfway there now, and I'm making a little bit of progress. You know, what I try to do is go once a little bit farther each time, and it's I'm getting there. Um, Another one of my goals is to be able to lift 100 pounds with my affected leg. And again, I'm halfway there. But my problem is because I can't lift a lot of weight, I don't trust it yet, and I need to learn to trust my leg and to walk up straight more and put more weight on it because that will give you more ability to list on it as well. And another goal is one I've had for a while because before I had my stroke, I loved to play golf. You know, that takes a lot of balance and agility. And so my goal is to get out and hit a golf ball with help. And so I think that's going to wait until the weather gets a little bit nicer before I go out and do that. But those are my goals.
I was always a perfectionist and very impatient to get to perfect. And perfect just isn't out there. It's not going to happen. And I'm having to learn to accept my limits because I used to work myself sick. And now I'm learning to quit before I've done too much. Because the important thing is to find meaning in my life. And right now, taking care of Bruce is a big, big piece of that. And taking care of myself has to be right up there.
I think for me, the patience in grief and to let myself go through the grief was really hard. And then I read a book about grief, and it had an exercise to write my story. And that really did help for processing the grief. And I am continually saying there is no story in my stroke situation because you know how it is when you're living it doesn't feel like a story, but there is. Whether or not that story needs to be told to us, it's neither here nor there. Sometimes you need to tell it to yourself and to write it and feel that I'm not done. It's hard. I mean, it's really grief inspiring to write it, but I would have to say, I think that's through poetry or whether it's writing, but somehow painting, whatever it is, some kind of creative form to get some of the grief out. And through that grief, I think is helpful. I read a book by Catherine May called Wintering, and I would recommend it to all of us because it really is about that stillness that I think for that stillness that allows you just to be within yourself. And maybe that's part of that grief process as well, just that stillness. Thank you.
I would like to share as a caregiver to my mom. And I think the wisdom I'd pass on to other caregivers during recovery is cherish the little wins for your stroke survivor. Cherish the mundane moments with your stroke survivor. And for me, as a caregiver, for other caregivers, I would suggest going through the grief, being sad, being disappointed, even being mad. I didn't share that with my mom, but I did share it within a safe space with a therapist. And I would suggest to any caregiver, one aspect of taking care of yourself is expressing that grief in a safe place. I suggest a therapist. But yeah, I think we have to be able to be sad. And I see a lot of caregivers who just can't be sad. And I think that has to happen. You have to go through it.
One thing for me, like most have already said, that patience piece. But really over, I'm relatively new in mine, just about 5.5 months ago. Throughout this time, I've been able to see how my values and priorities have changed. I was very career-minded, and during my recovery, I was so focused on getting back to work. I got to get back to work like that. That was my focus, and it wasn't until about a month ago that I really saw that that's not what my priority and my values need to be. It needs to be within me. So I love when I hear Drew and I hear Deborah talking about, those goals and things that they have done. It helps me on my journey to remind myself to create these goals, whether short or long term, that are for me. And just in the last month, I've been able to do those things. And one of my big long-term goals is to hike on a trail again. And I haven't made it very far yet. Usually about a couple hundred feet into the trail, my body just stops moving, but that's okay. I got to chip away at it, and that's one of the things I've really accepted is that it's not going to be some grand achievement. Post-stroke, you're going to have these little wins, right? You're going to have these little achievements that are going to amount to something that is grand, that end goal. And going back to that patience piece is something that I've learned that I've really enjoyed is slowing down. I used to call myself a pinball, which when I look back at it is definitely wasn't living a very healthy life of, pinballing, whether it's at work, home, and just going on to the next thing and not truly enjoying the now and being present in the now. And so, that this blessing is from the stroke has caused me to slow down and really live in the moment and be present.
I'm Karen. I don't know if I have a lot of words of encouragement today. I need to hear encouragement. I had a stroke almost 7 years ago, and I was doing well. I mean, I even got out on a bicycle with my caregiver's help to get on and off. I thought I could go back to doing everything I'd done before the stroke, and that's not been so. well, let me back up a little bit. So then last December, a year ago December, I fell and broke my hip. So then I had to have a hip replacement. And then last May, I had to have a knee replacement. And then this past year, this Christmas up until just a few weeks ago, I've been very, very sick with diverticulitis. And I feel like I keep going back to when I first had the stroke. And I'm trying to fight depression. I don't give in to it. I get mad. I did go out in the garden, and I hadn't done that for a number of years. Last week, or whenever it was sunny for 3 days, I was able to go out for about 2 hours each day. One of the continual problems I have is my balance and my dizziness. And I think that's due to the stroke. Don't think it's due to my new knee or my new hip. So I have to go out in the garden with my walker so that I have something to hang on to. It's a very different kind of gardening, but I am doing it. It's hard for me to get back to that state that I was when I first had my stroke, which was, by golly, I'm going to do it. I'm not there right now. And I think it's just because, as you can tell, I've lost a lot of weight, and I was pretty sick. I'm over that now, and I've had this great guy take care of me. I am making jewelry, which really I didn't do before I had the stroke. So finding something creative, writing, painting, whatever it is, I think it's really critically important. On a day when I don't feel good, I make myself get up and go to my beading table and at least play with the beads and figure out a design. And I know I'll get through this. I would love to go to Europe in the fall. The first fall after I'd had my stroke, we went to France. And I was determined to go, and it was a slow go, but we did it. And I don't want to go to France again, but I'd like to go back to Europe one more time. I'm almost 83, but I plan to live every moment right up to the end. And I encourage people that have had strokes to do that. And getting mad can get you through some rough times. The first night in my stroke, I was so angry that I'd had a stroke that I kept trying to do my exercises in bed because my left side was paralyzed. And I thought, by God, you're not going to beat me. And I still feel that way most days. And I really do love this group. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have.
Glad you're with us, Karen.
I really appreciate all of your energy and your positiveness, because I'm going to take some of that into me and push forward. So thanks. Thanks, Bill. I saw your light go on every once in a while.
Thank you, Karen.
Well, I'll share a little bit. I sometimes hesitate to do the Zoom meetings. I prefer the in-person meetings. But listening to you today, I realized I need to work on my list of things to aspire to. I also like to play golf, and I've had various parts of my body give out on me, and I think maybe just playing pitch and putt or practice putting would be fun. So I'm not ready to do miniature golf, but uh, and I've had some hobby things kind of lying in the weeds, waiting for me to come back to them, and so I want to practice on those. But anyway, thank you for your words of encouragement for yourselves and for me.
I've had 80% of my life dealing with post-stroke issues. And a lot of what I know, I've had to figure out on my own. And a lot of it has been really difficult. And then aging with disabilities has been that much harder. And what Drew said about how hard it is to ask for help, that has been really difficult. But I am finding more and more that I am happy to ask for help, and I'm grateful when I get it. And again, what was mentioned previously, the little victories are huge. And it helps a lot with dealing with the frustrations and the depression and all, to think, hey, I got this done. Hey, I figured that one out. Those things make me happy. And it's just nice to hear that others have the same thoughts and the same experiences and derive the same kind of satisfaction, I guess you would call it, that I do at these times, because there's so much frustration and so much anger. And yes, I get mad. I used to get a lot madder. And at this point, it's kind of like just, well, this is my life and I have to figure out how to deal with this. And I've been surprisingly lately wanting to do more to try to get this impaired left arm that has been not used as much as it should have been. And I don't know what caused this thought process or whatever you would call it to make me, hey, I'm going to open that cupboard or that door or whatever with this arm, when otherwise I would just kind of leave it hanging there and do everything with my good arm, good hand.
You're still finding those little pearls and diamonds along the way.
I don't know, maybe it's talking to people in this group or just being around, or maybe there's some new enlightenment going on in me. I don't know, but I've been wanting to do more with this side that I have been kind of neglecting or avoiding the use of, avoiding making the effort to get it to work. And so that's kind of been my new project lately.
I'm part of a group called the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, and they have been incredibly helpful. They meet monthly, a group very similar to this, and it's been very helpful to talk to other people who had arterial venous malformation ruptures or are dealing with trying to get them treated. And so it's another group. I think finding those groups who align with, whether it's a stroke group or a TAF, which is the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, finding those groups that you can feel at home in and find community in are just is incredibly helpful and meaningful.
This is a very special group. I love the point about patience and goals. And every once in a while, we get an extra burst. I think that, Bill, you said that there were little pearls and diamonds that Jono was talking about. The extra burst that we feel more motivated to try a little bit harder than we have. And that comes up years into recovery. And I don't know what sparks it, but I'm thankful for those moments. Also, I'm thankful for people talking about creativity and the need to write or to sit at the bead table or to go out into the garden. Sometimes it's just picking up a pen or, yes, just sitting and playing with the beads at the bead table. I'm thankful for, Andre, when you talked about reframing the mind. Maybe goals aren't about getting back to work.
Indeed.
Reprioritizing our lives. There were so many little bits of wisdom that each of you shared today. Thank you for offering your words. This is truly a special space, this community that all of you have created. Victoria is the leader, and we're thankful for Victoria, but each and every one of you create this space also by the way that you share the depth and the wisdom and the struggles.
Thank you. There's a wonderful world out there waiting for us patiently.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by, Molly.
As we close, we take a moment of pause, a moment to ponder the wisdom that has emerged through our own recoveries. What lessons have we learned along the way? How do we see life differently? How is it more hopeful? How do we feel more connected? Where have we found purpose post-stroke? And what wisdom do we have to offer other stroke survivors? What wisdom do we have to offer our younger selves now that we've been through more? And what type of love, empathy, compassion do we have to give to others and to ourselves through this experience? Today, we are especially grateful for the RiverBend's Stroke Survivor and Caregiver social group for sharing their thoughts. May we have the courage to use our life experiences to serve each other, to offer compassion, to offer camaraderie, to offer a listening ear and a hopeful word. And we give thanks.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to another Beyond Stillness community special, highlighting reflections from RiverBend's Stroke Survivor and Caregiver Support Group. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this community special of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, RiverBend's Survivor and Caregiver social group offered their reflections on acceptance, patience, and connection, while honoring both grief and hope. They talked about priority shifts, new hobbies, and camaraderie amongst fellow stroke survivors. If you enjoyed this moment of pause for storytelling and reflection, please like, share, or subscribe to the Beyond Stillness Stories After Stroke podcast. Again, thanks for listening, and remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.